All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Erev Tov, everybody. This is Jacob Citron, the director of Camp Ramah, Wisconsin, and I want to welcome everybody onto the call. We really appreciate people participating. Before we begin, I really want to thank JCamp 180, this amazing organization, and specifically one of their very talented staff members, Kevin Martone, who are facilitating this webinar for us. I'm now going to pass things over to Kevin, who's the technical guru over at JCamp 180, and Kevin is going to walk us through some of the technical logistics of the webinar.
Thanks, Jacob. I'm glad to be here tonight. Tonight we're using GoToWebinar for the webinar tonight. We have muted everyone by default to reduce distractions and echo, but we do want the session to be interactive, so I'll quickly go over how you can get involved by typing questions for Amy. You can see on the screen here the control panel, which you should have probably on the right side of your screen. If you want to hide that control panel so you can see your full screen, you can click that white arrow in the red box that's labeled letter A on the screen. That will allow you to see the presentation in full screen. But make sure you do not click that X in the upper right corner of the control panel, because if you do that, you'll knock yourself out of the session completely. If you want to type a question to us to get to be answered by Amy, you'll have to open the control panel again. To do so, just click on that white arrow in the red box again to expand the control panel. Letter D on the screen is where you'll actually type in your questions. You can type in any technical issues you have, and I can try to help you, but also that's where you're going to type in any questions you have for Amy. Linda Hoffenberg is here, and she'll be reading the questions for Amy at the end of the presentation. But please submit throughout as they come up so that we'll have all the questions at one time. Today's session will be recorded, and someone will be sending an email out to you to let you know where it will be. It will probably be available, the recording will probably be available by Monday. Now back to Jacob to get started with today's session.
Thank you, Kevin, for that introduction. I want to talk for just a few minutes about our presenter this evening, Amy Rotenberg. Amy is an alumna of the camp who, after a distinguished career in a variety of different settings as an attorney and counsel, has set out as the founder and president of Rotenberg Associates. In that role, Amy has more than a decade of experience in crisis management and strategic communications. She serves her clients at their most critical moments and advocates for high-profile issues before national media, before the United States Congress, helps rehabilitate reputations of corporate executives, and helps clients at the intersection of legal claims, regulatory attacks, and media scrutiny. Amy is a graduate of Harvard University and also Cambridge University, received her law degree with honors from the University of Minnesota Law School. Amy, her husband Mark, and their son Max, who will be in Nivonim this coming summer, recently relocated to the Baltimore area, where Amy is continuing her work. Just to add a little bit of spice to this, she's also a retired competitive figure skater. We are absolutely thrilled that Amy has really spearheaded this project, presenting this idea to the Camp Ramah, Wisconsin senior leadership, I think over a year ago now, and that it's finally coming to fruition. And we're just so grateful to have Amy, who's here to help us from a professional perspective, really think critically about how to translate our children's experiences at Camp Ramah, Wisconsin into college applications. Amy, take it away.
Thank you, Jacob. It's really great to be here tonight to talk about this very important subject. I just want to thank, besides Jacob, Linda Hoffenberg and Yael Bendot, who I've worked with since last summer to get this presentation put together. And I just want to add a couple of thoughts to what Jacob said as an introduction. I am professionally a lawyer and a strategic communications consultant, but my interest and experience with college admissions goes back to the 20 years that I have been doing admissions for Harvard College for students applying mostly out of the Minnesota area. Now I'm going to be doing it for students out of Maryland. But I've spent a lot of time evaluating high school students who are applying to a very selective college and have been a part of that process working with the admissions teams in Cambridge, Massachusetts for 20 years. And it is that perspective and that interest that brought me together with Camp Ramah, Wisconsin to put together this presentation tonight. I'm not a professional guidance counselor, so we'll have that caveat. And the other thing I wanted to mention at the outset is that I think we have a diverse audience here participating today. We have campers and their parents. We have first-timers as well as veterans of the college admissions process. We have some younger high school students as well as older high school students. So in preparing this presentation, I've tried to take that diversity into account. Many of you may have heard some of the basics before, and others may be hearing this for the first time. Hopefully, all of you will benefit from the information provided this evening, and I welcome your questions at the end. So what I'm going to be talking about tonight is, at the beginning, some information on the admissions process generally, and then talking about how Ramah in particular fits into that process. I also want everyone to keep in mind that there are some pretty substantial differences between how large public universities handle their admissions processes from how private colleges handle their admissions processes. Many of the things that we're talking about today will be applicable equally to both, but some things are going to be probably directed more, might be more appropriate for the smaller private college process, and I will try to point that out as I'm going through. It's not a one-size-fits-all. Also, keep in mind that individual college counseling is still something that you may want to pursue, and that this webinar tonight is not a substitute for whatever individualized guidance you may need from guidance counselors at your school or from independent consultants. So I think this is the $64,000 question. You know, what's the secret sauce for college admissions? You know, what's the recipe? What is it really that I need to do to be able to get into my first choice college? And the answer is, I'm sorry to report, that the big secret in college admissions is that there is no big secret. And this is coming from a veteran dean of admissions who was worked at Princeton, Stanford, and Swarthmore College. And what that means is that colleges are looking for, in many ways, the same things from all of their applicants. They want applicants that are authentic. They want applicants that are passionate about their interests. They want students who are capable of handling the workload at their institution and who will be successful there. And importantly, they want students who will fit well with their institution's particular priorities and missions. What this means is the strategic needs of the school as it considers who to admit. And frankly, this changes from year to year. And so as you're thinking about where you may want to go to college, it's important to really explore that college's mission statement, their goals, what they specialize in, to try to figure out whether you would be a good fit for them as well. The good news is that the vast majority of students who are polled after freshman year are very satisfied with their choice, And in fact, overwhelmingly, I tell this to parents all the time, students end up really where they belong. Now, when you think about the fact that when polled, an overwhelming majority of freshmen are very satisfied with their choice of college in their first year, that's a pretty substantial statement, because if you think about what the marriage and divorce rates are in the United States, it really turns out that you have a much better chance of picking the right college for yourself than you are for picking the right mate. I don't know what that says really about our society, but it should take a little of the pressure off of making this decision for yourself about your higher education. The other thing that you should understand is that 61% of students end up attending their first choice school. And in fact, actually, even more than that, get admitted to their first choice school, but maybe they don't end up attending for other reasons such as financial. So the fact of the matter is that while the whole process may be very scary and sometimes feels like it's an impossible task to get through, you have a very, very good chance of getting into the school that is your first choice, especially if you handle the admissions process strategically and do the best job you can of telling the story of your life. So there's two different principal ways that colleges actually review their applications for admissions. One is quantitative, and the other is sort of a comprehensive application review. Large public universities typically use the quantitative approach, which focuses on specific criteria like standardized test scores and grades and class rank. Smaller private universities often take a more holistic approach, and they'll consider extracurriculars, special talents, special circumstances, and experience in addition to your grades and scores. Now, I'm saying this in a very general way, and of course there's many variations in between. But it's important to understand that, because as you're going through this process, for some of the schools, it might be much more important to be emphasizing your extracurriculars, your special talents, your special circumstances, demographic issues. That may be much more important and much more effective on certain kinds of college applications than on others. And also, as we get into a discussion about Camp Ramah, it will become more important for certain kinds of schools that you might be applying to, and it may be less important for other types of schools. For you as applicants, though, you should use all aspects of the application process to authentically and effectively present the unique story of your life. So this is really a process in which you're going to be a storyteller. And you're going to be a storyteller not telling a fiction story. You're going to be doing a nonfiction story about your life so that you can get an admissions officer who is otherwise going to be very bored having to plow through hundreds, if not thousands, of applications to catch that person's attention and have them really be interested in what you have to offer. So I'm going to get into next some of the basics about what colleges are looking for. So colleges are looking for students that show, obviously, merit and skills. And this is in the context of the total applicant pool that year and in light of the college's own institutional priorities. So what I mean by that is that merit is defined by what the particular college is looking for at that time. And of course it includes generally academic success, intellectual curiosity, mastery of areas of personal interest in and outside of the classroom. And do you fill a specific need on campus? Meaning, Are you in the orchestra? Are you on the tennis team? Do they need more debaters? Do they need more theater arts performers? Do they have a space they need to fill in a dance troupe? And so as you can see, merit and skills is not just objectively what you've achieved, which might be really outstanding. It's what you've achieved in the context of what do they need at that time that you're applying. And I emphasize this because a lot of people sometimes are really frustrated. You know, you could be the valedictorian of your high school with great extracurricular activities and then not get into your first choice college. And that doesn't mean that you're not good enough, and it doesn't mean that you aren't qualified or that you wouldn't succeed at that college. It just means that in the context of the full applicant pool for that year, maybe the special interest, maybe the major that you're thinking about, maybe the extracurriculars that you want to pursue are things that have already been filled by others for that year, and they're looking for a different combination of interests and skills. They're also looking for leadership. And what I mean by leadership is, have you taken your interests to the next level, and have you sought out opportunities to break out of the pack? They're looking for students that demonstrate strong character, and how you've demonstrated this through the experiences that you've had, and what does that predict about your future. And finally, colleges are looking at your potential to be a good campus citizen. In other words, will you be a good roommate for somebody, and will you contribute positively to campus life? Now, the reason that I've broken this down in this way with these four areas, merit and skills, leadership, strong character, and the potential for good community campus citizenship, is because that's how you should be thinking about your experiences and how you're going to present yourself on your college application, demonstrating these four core areas. And as it turns out, that Camp Ramah is all about skills, leadership, character, and community. And so we have a really wonderful opportunity for you to fill out your application, to flesh it out with some of the many experiences that you've had while at camp. In the end, I think you should be thinking conceptually about including the Camp Ramah story in your college applications. It doesn't mean that it has to take over the application. It doesn't have to necessarily be the primary subject of an essay. But there's many places throughout the application process, which we're going to get to in just a minute, where you will be able to tap into many of the experiences from Camp Ramah to help demonstrate merit and skill, leadership, character, and community citizenship. And here's what I mean about including the Camp Ramah story. You know, we're really privileged to be able to be sending our kids to Camp Ramah for 8 weeks each summer, where they're going to be engaged in learning, skills enhancement, leadership development, and community. Because let's face it, this is not a 2-week debate camp. This is not a 3-week outward bound canoeing experience. This is 8 weeks of immersive learning, skills enhancement, leadership development, and community. And by the way, for all the campers who are on the webinar right now, of course it's about fun and friends and bonding and community, which is all the things, and building your Jewish identity. Those are all things that Camp Ramah wants you to feel deep in your heart, and we know that you all do, and it's really the best part of Camp Ramah. But from the standpoint of a college admissions officer trying to understand how you have spent your year for many years over the summer, Camp Ramah is really so much more than just the fun and the friends. It's about the learning, the skills enhancement, the leadership development, and the community. So we know that Ramah plays a very significant role in shaping and developing our children into tomorrow's leaders. It's way more than just summer camp, and that's why it's going to be so important to talk about it in the college admissions process as being more than just summer camp. Many of your experiences, including, by the way, Ramah Israel seminar experiences, I know we've got some folks on the webinar tonight who've come back from an amazing summer in Israel. Rich, rich material, folks, for your personal essays or for a short essay response or even as a discussion point in an interview. And how we communicate that experience on college applications really matters, and it can make a difference. And I really feel like the best example I can give you for what I'm talking about is, you know, some college applications have a generalized question that says, how did you spend your past 3 summers? The answer should not simply be, I went to summer camp. The answer's got to be much more detailed, much more nuanced than that, and we're going to get into the details about how you talk about that in just a minute. But first, let's talk about some of the just college admissions basics. Okay, first off is the actual application itself. Many of you are familiar with the Common Application, which is a uniform online application that most of the known universities and colleges in the United States are using. I think there's like 400 colleges now that do use the Common Application. The advantage of this is that you can fill out your most basic information, including an essay, and submit it to multiple colleges so that you don't have to do separate ones for each individual application. Some colleges, in addition to accepting the Common Application, do require their own additional supplements. It might be just some specific college-specific questions, or it might also include an additional writing supplement. So be sure that you focus on the schools that you're going to apply, what they require, if it's the Common App alone or the Common App plus some additional supplements. For 2013-14, the Common Application changed, and it now has 5 options for a personal essay. It used to be that there was a catch-all option where you could write about any subject that you wanted, and they no longer have this catch-all option. They have 5 options for the personal essay. I'll get into the details of that a little bit more a little bit later tonight. You should also know that there's been some technical problems with the Common Application. Some of you may have experienced this if you're applying right now. There were some major computer problems with the new Common App that prevented the submission and had some serious errors in the submission of the Common App to colleges. And so I'm aware that many colleges have extended their early action deadline for November 15th. It was supposed to be November 1st, but you may want to check into that if that's not something that you're aware of. Make sure that when you're filling out the application that you are complete and accurate and that you submit it on time. And accuracy is really, really important. Don't embellish or fabricate. Some colleges, and in fact this is becoming more and more common now, some colleges are doing random audits to check the accuracy of information that you put on your application. Be sure you respond fully to every question and including answer all optional questions. Every question has a purpose, and each question, frankly, is your opportunity to provide more details about you. So don't leave those opportunities on the table. Be sure that you provide all your extracurricular information, including the number of hours per week, the honors that you have won, positions that you've held, and prioritize those activities based on what is the most important and what you spent the most time on. Don't overstate your hours. because guess what? Admissions officers can count, and they will be able to figure out quite quickly that there's no way that you could have spent, 20 hours a week on homework, 30 hours a week on football, an extra 20 hours a week on debate, etc. So be as accurate as you can about the hours and the role that you played in each of those activities. And also, don't feel confined by the titles or the headings on the application. Tell the schools what you want them to know about your interests and your accomplishments, and label and title them in the way that makes the most sense for you. Be sure you provide all requested academic information on the application. Even though the colleges are going to get your transcripts directly from the school, even though your standardized test scores are going to be reported directly from the testing agencies, if the application asks for academic information, include it, because this gives the admissions teams an opportunity to start evaluating your application even before official grades and scores are reported. Now the essays. Every question is designed to find out who you are and why you do the things that you do. The Dean of Admission and Financial Aid at Harvard University, Bill Fitzsimmons, has said it this way, quote, "What we're trying to do is look for people who have been presented with opportunities in their families, in their neighborhoods, and in their schools. What they made of those opportunities. What do their accomplishments at this point project for the next 4 years at college and beyond, the next 50 or 100 years?" And so you have an opportunity with the essays to really talk about those opportunities that Bill Fitzsimmons mentions and help explain to the admissions committee sort of where your life is headed. Not necessarily just where it's been, but where it's headed. One college admissions officer put it to me this way once. We're less interested in the laundry list of accomplishments than we are about what those accomplishments project about a student's potential for the future. In other words, we're hoping that we don't admit students whose best days are behind them. So it's really all about how do you show a college or university what your potential is. So take every question seriously and make the most of it. Be sure that you use your own genuine voice, and beware of packaging. What I mean by that is there's a whole industry now, of course, of independent consultants who are helping students communicate about their accomplishments. And that's great, and it's useful, and I encourage it for any of you who think that that would be helpful. But on the other hand, at the end of the day, the package really needs to be your package, your voice, your life, and it will become very obvious to admissions officers when it's been prepared by other people or has been so closely edited that it no longer looks like your voice, which should be the voice of an accomplished, intelligent 17 or 18-year-old. Now, when you include Ramah experiences, be sure that you distinguish Camp Ramah from what I think are the stereotypical summer camps that we see sometimes on the big screen. We'll talk more about this later, but you should all be aware that not all summer camps are the same, and certainly not all summer camps are as valuable as Camp Ramah. So be sure that we don't leave any opening for such an impression when you're talking about your camp experience. And also on essays, avoid using camp lingo and acronyms. You should describe in plain English or in translated Hebrew what you did at camp and why and what you got out of it. Now, the Common App, as I mentioned before, is new for 2013-14, and it has 5 essay options. I'm going to just go through these really quick just so that you have a sense of what, and then we're going to move on to get to some of the specific things about Camp Ramah. The questions they have now are, some students have a background or story that is so central to their identity that they believe their application would be incomplete without it. This sounds like you, then please share your story. Option 2, recount an incident or time when you experienced failure. How did it affect you, and what lessons did you learn? Option 3, reflect on a time when you challenged a belief or idea. What prompted you to act? Did you make the same decision again? Option 4, describe a place or environment where you are perfectly content. What did you do or experience there, and why is it meaningful to you? Accomplishment or event, formal or informal, that marked your transition from childhood to adulthood within your culture, community, or family. So you can choose any of those 5 topics, but choose the one that will best show your best authentic self. And then be sure that your answers include details and self-reflection, because this is the chance to show the admissions committee exactly who you are. Often the colleges will have a supplemental question. This is not typically on the Common App, but it would be on a college's supplemental questions, which is the what did you do last summer, or how have you spent the last 3 summers questions. And, you know, there's different ways that we can answer that. One way, which would be a very good way, would be to say something like, I wrote, produced, and acted in an original one-act play that was performed before roughly 400 adults and teens within the Camp Ramah community in Conover, Wisconsin. Another way to answer that same question is to say, I went to summer camp. Now, if you're a college admissions officer, which of those 2 answers, I think it's pretty obvious, is going to be most interesting and more inspiring to you and project a lot about the potential of this student. I think actually describing a specific program or activity accomplishment that happened at camp or during the course of a camp summer is much more effective than just simply saying, I went to summer camp. The supplemental essays and personal statement, like the Common App essay, demonstrate for colleges exactly what the colleges are looking for. And it's back to what we talked about earlier, skills, leadership, character, and sense of community. And so those are the things that you're going to want to think about when you're coming up with both the topics for the essays and how you're going to flesh them out. Now, the final thing to talk about with the college admissions basics is the interview. If an interview is offered, not all colleges do offer them, but many of them do. If it's offered, and even if it's optional, I recommend that you take it because it is simply another opportunity to present yourself as a full human and not just a package of scores and grades. Don't be nervous. It's a chance for the admissions officer or the alumni representative in your area to get to know you better. Be yourself, be genuine, be sure that you prepare for the interview by thinking about who you are and what you want. Be prepared with good specific questions about that particular college and do your homework on each college so the question makes sense and demonstrates to the admissions officer that you have actually done some thinking about their particular school. The questions that they ask, most interview questions will focus on why. Interviewers are interested in what motivates students. So they may start out by asking you a what question, like, what are your favorite subjects? What books have you read? What are your plans for extracurriculars in college? But really what they want to know is why are your answers the answers. And so when you answer a what question, it's very important that you then transition quickly into Why do you want to be pre-med? Why are you interested in psychology as a potential major? Why do you want to be on the dance team? And those are the things that really will help shed the most light about you as an individual person. There's a little bit of etiquette to talk about for the interview. It's very important that you be on time. It's also important that you dress appropriately. The interview is an opportunity to demonstrate to the college your seriousness about them and that you consider this to be an important occasion. I would dress in, you don't have to be in a three-piece suit, but both boys and girls should take the opportunity to dress up. No torn jeans, no hoodies, no T-shirts. Sends totally the wrong message. And if you're going to have an interview that's actually at the college on a day perhaps that you're visiting, students should also always take the lead and let the parents stay in the background. And what I mean by this is that the student should be the one to go up to the reception desk and check in. And when the interviewer comes out, introduce yourself, then introduce your parents. And parents, this is a moment to step back and let your kids demonstrate their independence because, after all, they're off to college, and the first impression that they give to the admissions officer is as important as anything else. Generally, the smaller and more selective the college, the more important the interview. So remember, colleges are looking for merit and skills, leadership, strong character, and the potential to be good community and campus citizens. So now, let's talk about Ramah. So in the category of skills, there's many places that we can go with this, and we're going to start off with Hebrew language. Foreign language camps, I'm sure many of you are aware, are currently very hot. And it turns out that Camp Ramah, among the myriad of other amazing things that goes on here, is in reality an 8-week Hebrew language village. Think about your immersion into modern Hebrew language, Israeli culture, Jewish life, daily for 1/6 of the year for multiple years as a Camp Ramah camper. And of course it culminates in Ramah Israel Seminar, which actually is not a language village at all, it's the real deal. So if you have an opportunity to write or speak about learning Hebrew at Camp Ramah, you can learn the language, focus on speaking, including learning current Israeli slang, playing games, singing songs, reading newspapers and movies, living with Israeli staff. It's all mean,
Hey, Amy.
Yes,
it's Kevin.
It's making a funny noise. Yeah.
You've got some static. It might be the connection between your headset and the cell phone. You might want to try just using the cell phone for the last bit.
Okay. Is it still staticky now?
Nope, sounds good now.
Oh, okay. I don't know what happened. All right. Well, we'll try it. If it sounds staticky, we'll go on to regular speaker. Apologize for that. The question is, what does all of the Hebrew language learning mean to you? You can mention the Ulpan program during your Shoafim and Sololin summers. You can mention the Israeli film class for Machon and Bo Green. You know, in short, while having fun with your friends and building strong Jewish identities at camp, you've also been engaged in the Hebrew language village. And that's something that's worth talking about on a college application. Now, what other skills go on up at camp? Certainly there's theater and performing arts, much to be proud of there. And I use as an example here the Nivo English language play. For those of you who've participated in this, you know this, and for others who have not yet, the Nivo English play is a 2-week intensive playwriting workshop culminating in a fully choreographed original one-act play. The campers spend 4 hours per day of formal participation in this program and more hours informally. The campers discuss a theme, take days to discover what they want to present, including exploring the message and storyline. They worked on various writing prompts and just keep writing and writing. The campers workshop each other's themes and work to tie the themes together and make sure the story meets the theme. So you can describe this experience with details and with good word choices. And you can also describe why the experiences mattered and was important to you. So for example, and these quotes, by the way, came from actual NIVO participants from this past summer. I asked them very specifically, what did you get out of this experience? What did you learn from this experience? And they said things like, it taught me to trust my own voice. Another quote, I thought it would be easier because everyone is so creative, but we had to work hard to get all the ideas together. We've all done plays before and understand staging and process, but usually we're told what to do. Now we had to start at the beginning and do it all ourselves. It taught me not to be such a perfectionist. It was all about collaboration, not just about me. So this is an example of experience up at camp, which, was a 2-week intensive experience for these campers. And you can be in an interview with a college admissions officer and talk in great detail about the experience of being involved with a NIVO English play. And not just say, oh, I had fun with my friends at camp this summer. Now also, when you're discussing other performing arts experiences, if there was a particular staff specialist or visitor that had an impact on you, that can also be something good to talk about. Other skills, radio broadcasting, which was the Mahone Intensive and also NIVO internship. Yes, it's fun to spin music and select the song lineup for the radio station. But the Mahone Radio Intensive and NIVO Radio Internship are so much more. Here's a reminder, folks, of what you all did when you participated in radio this summer. You learned technical aspects of radio broadcasting. You had to review and compile the world news and decide what was going to be reported to the camp community. You had to announce the news. You prepared and conducted interviews in English. You prepared song lists to stream live within the 5-mile area and on the internet. You announced songs and did shout-outs in Hebrew. And for those of you who were interns, you supervised and instructed younger campers. So radio broadcasting at Ramah is a really interesting combination of music, current events, journalism, broadcasting, public speaking. Maybe you can talk about this and how it relates to other of your academic or extracurricular interests or your future career plans in either journalism, music, public policy, etc. There's a link here, and the time that you spent doing this at camp, not only was it fun, but it was also really educational and a great skill development activity. How about staging Hebrew Broadway musicals? This is one of the best parts of everyone's summer. Now, many high schools and other summer camps stage Broadway musicals. What's unique and should be shared with admissions officers about Ramah is that the productions at Ramah are entirely in Hebrew. As Professor Joe Reimer of Brandeis has noted, we take the Hebrew musicals at Ramah for granted because they are such a part of camp tradition. But actually, it is extremely rare for American teens to stage a play of this type in a foreign language. And so, how will you talk about it? You could answer the question, what did you do last summer, as I was in the musical West Side Story at camp. That would be one way. But a better way might be, I played a role in the Hebrew production of West Side Story. From set design to live music accompaniment, from learning the songs, dances, and script entirely in Hebrew, this semi-professional production involves the whole age division and is accomplished within just a matter of weeks. You can also focus on one aspect with details or talk more specifically about what your participation in this project meant to you with the entire ADA, etc. Now let's move on to the sort of intellectual and educational side of Ramah, the learning and the depth of thinking. Ramah is not just summer camp. It's a high-quality, long-respected educational institution. One could even argue it's on par with other summer educational programs run by high schools and colleges across the country. Our campers learn how to discuss and debate, often in small group settings, complex issues involving history, theology, the Middle East, interpersonal relationships, and much more. Campers are routinely challenged with serious text materials drawn from biblical and rabbinic literature, historical documents, and contemporary scholarships. Ramah is filled with counselors and specialty staff who attend some of the finest universities in the United States, and our campers are learning from visiting American and Israeli scholars, rabbis, and teachers, as well as the resident professional educators virtually every day for 2 solid months. This is something that's worth talking about on the application, in your essays, in your interviews. Leadership opportunities. Jacob Citron has said that Ramah is a place where kids act like grown-ups. They run the minyan. An 18-year-old is the rabbi. The 12-year-olds lead Torah reading. We bring the kids to the level of adults. So leadership is a big part of the Camp Ramah experience. Think about Yom Sport or Color Wars. It's an exercise in leadership. If you were a color captain, talk about your role in helping each kid, even the young ones, to shine. What did it mean to you to lead your team compared to previous experiences being just a team member? What responsibilities and skills and emotional qualities are required to lead services? You can talk about this in your application, essays, and interviews. And importantly, throughout the camp experience, you have an opportunity to play different roles. To be the leader, and everyone gets this chance, whether on the sport court or in a class or cabin activity during tefillah. Everyone gets a chance to be a follower and to play no role at all. Character building. The Chaverim program is an excellent example of the values that Ramah teaches, and it's just but one example. So if you were involved in this program, how would you describe it? Here's a suggestion. I participated in the Chaverim, or Friend, program when I was paired with a special needs camper for companionship and mentoring throughout my summer. I attended evening seminars once or twice a week with the director of this program, who is a specialist in working with special needs kids on the autism spectrum. We learned how to communicate with our chaver, the parameters of appropriate friendship, how to listen, and how to develop empathy to appreciate who these special campers are. So it's just a way, it's a narrative to describe this experience that many of you have had participating in the Chaverim program. You can also describe special experiences, what you learned, what surprised you, and how the experience has otherwise impacted you. How did the experience reflect or otherwise impact your values? What will you take from this experience to your next life experience? Give details. Community socialization. Remember, colleges are trying to figure out whether each applicant would make a good roommate for someone and will contribute to campus life in a positive way. Your 8 weeks each summer at Camp Ramah has prepared you well for living in close quarters with people who may be different from you and may even annoy you. You've learned to cope, to be tolerant, compromise, and bond with this group of bunkmates. You've also experienced working together as a group with others. Sometimes just the boys, sometimes the girls, sometimes by age group, and sometimes the whole camp. This is the name of the game in the workplace of today and in the future. To have experiences of esprit de corps, bringing peers together, working as a team, is critically important. Vizimriya, Rakudiya, Ada, Hebrew musicals, and other fun camp activities are rich material for sharing your involvement in and appreciation of a caring community of peers and adults. Don't be afraid to share this with admissions officers. Character and community through sports. Of course, athletics involves skills enhancement too, and leadership. All Ramah sports experiences can be woven together with your sports experiences at school and other club or park teams. If you're an athlete, and including elsewhere in your application's information about your athletic interests and accomplishments, reflect on the role of sport at Camp Ramah and your participation. What is different about these athletic experiences? As a player, as a team member, as a fan? Are there things you experience or learn on the fields and courts at camp that have helped you grow as a person? Have you had opportunity to bring those experiences back to your home teams? Again, use details to describe these experiences in a way that helps shed light on who you are as a person. And finally, community socialization and skills through camping and outdoor survival. Campers have many opportunities to learn and experience traditional camping and survival skills. This is camp, after all. From Macha Nude Intensive to gender-specific ADA camping trips, campers learn to pitch tents, navigate streams, cook over a campfire, stay warm, stay dry, and appreciate the blessings of nature. Our campers experience and learn to work as a team, experiment with leadership and problem solving, and bond over their shared experiences. So let's sum it up. You've devoted a significant part of your life to Camp Ramah. You've had more fun than you can quantify, made lifelong friends, enhanced your Jewish identity and commitment to Israel, and become the future leaders of the Jewish community. But you have also engaged in serious learning and intellectual development, mastered skills in the arts, sports, camping, and Hebrew language, just to name a few. You've embraced opportunities for leadership and participated in vibrant community building. You've emerged as fine young men and women of outstanding character, ethics, and values. Now, you need to share that on your college apps, and best wishes for your future success. At this time, I would be happy to take any questions.
So, Kevin, maybe you can help me with this. It looks like Wendy has an unanswered question, but I don't see that I can view it.
I can help you with that.
So could you read the question? Oh, now I can see the question. So what Wendy was asking is, will the slides be available to download? And yes, this entire presentation has been recorded. So the whole webinar can be viewed again, and then we can also post the PowerPoint. And both of those will be available, we hope, by Monday. We'll send you an email on how you can access that. And there is one more question here, Amy.
Yes.
The question is, my child will be in NIVO next summer. Should he choose some activities and an internship with the college application in mind?
Well, my best advice is that all the campers should choose their activities and internship opportunities based on their strong interests and their passions. That should always be the first and best reason to choose anything. And by doing that, you will have created the authentic passion and experience that will lend itself perfectly well to the college process. And I think that if you do it the other way around, where you're trying too hard to create the right package on an application and not really following, your heart and your desires, it never really comes out very well that way. So I would say to the incoming NIVOs, you have a great summer ahead of you. There's going to be amazing opportunities for skill development and leadership and community building. And you should follow your heart, do the activities that you're really interested in, But while you're doing them, I would say try to be in the moment and try to really understand and recognize and reflect on what it is that you're doing and achieving, because that will then help you when you are finished with camp and you come back home and have to start facing the college admissions process. You'll have done a little bit more of the background. You'll have gathered up some of the details. You'll have taken some of these photographs in your mind of the experiences that you have, and if you can be aware that way, that will be very helpful for you as you prepare the college application.
And Amy, I think maybe we can take this one last question, which is, should I worry about overemphasizing Judaism?
I don't think you have to worry about overemphasizing Judaism. First of all, thankfully, we are well past the days when colleges had quotas for how many Jews that they were going to admit. I think actually there's been, sadly, a decline in the amount of religious participation across all religions of young people. So showing that you are connected to your religious community actually can be very helpful, especially in terms of demonstrating your values and ethics. And, you know, Camp Ramah has a fantastic reputation nationally. Many of the top colleges are quite aware of Camp Ramah and what it does. And the fact that it's a Jewish camp is certainly not a negative. I would say it's a positive or at most a neutral, but certainly not a negative.
So that's it for the questions.
Well, I thank everybody for being here tonight, and I think Jacob is going to offer up some closing remarks.
I think Jacob might have actually been knocked off the webinar.
Okay, well then I will take this opportunity to thank Jacob for participating. He does have a new baby at home, so we'll excuse him for that. But Amy, thank you so much for sharing these insights and sharing your expertise with us. And to those of you who participated tonight, hopefully it gave you some tools to think about the college application process and how the Ramah experience can really be very helpful as you think about answering these different questions. So thank you all very much. Laila Tov.
Laila Tov.